Sticky Man. Great song. Oh, so freaking fantastic. I love seeing people out here. Hey my lovelies, welcome back to the channel. I'm finally doing something that you guys have been asking for over a year, and that is my tire review on the BFG stickies. Now I think you guys have been waiting for this for so long because Mischief Maker played a huge role in promoting the last tire that we were on, and that was the Mickey Thompson stickies themselves. But before we start this whole thing, let me just explain one thing to you. So a lot of you guys think, well, you were sponsored by Mickey Thompson, so you just found a new sponsor and that was BFG. That is partly right, but also partly wrong, because guess what? All the stickers that I had on my Jeep between 2019 and 2021, actually not my sponsors. Let me go into it a little further. Come on. Now, as some of you know, I was associated with a group of people, and I actually was not in control of who or what company I worked with from 2019 to 2021. And I didn't know if the company or the people in the company were good, bad. I didn't know if the customer service was good, which is a huge priority for me. And for most of them, I was not a customer first. Now, last week, I made a video on 3 of the most common misconceptions of being a brand or company ambassador. So definitely go check that out. But I'm a huge believer in you have to be a customer first, and I was not given the opportunity or chance to do that with this group. It was legitimately the worst. The worst. Maybe not super terrible, it wasn't all bad. I got to work with Mickey Thompson tires, you know, Power Tank, PRP, and then there were some companies I was forced to work with that were just terrible. And I'm not even going to mention them. Not all bad though, because that was kind of the way I was introduced to Mickey Thompson tires. Let me tell you, the company is fantastic and the people are brilliant. And depending on who you are and how you're wheeling and where you're wheeling, I'm totally behind people purchasing the tire I was running before. Now, I have a personal preference also, and to be very honest with you, the BFG Red Label Crawler was always the goal for Mischief Maker. Always, always. Even before I bought the axles, I knew the end goal for Mischief Maker was to be sat on these. The fact that I even get to work with BFGoodrich tires is really, really exciting. And if I'm going to be spending money on rubber, and I like rock crawling, this without a doubt is the rubber I'm buying. And they kind of speak for themselves, so I really don't have to say much about them. Okay, so now that's out of the way, it's time to compare the tires, or should I say, not really compare them. Okay, so the reason why I'm saying I can't really compare them is because they're two very different things. Take the Pro X, not quite a 43 inch on 1450, which is about an inch and a half wider, sticky tire on 17-inch wheels with a thick sidewall and massive tread pattern, perfect for thick clay and mud. And depending on your preference, they either look super good or you absolutely hate them. And guess what? There is no in between on those ones. Then take the crawlers. True to size at 42 inches, 1450 on 20-inch wheels. The sidewall is a little less. The tread pattern is much closer together, which makes it feel way more stable when crawling rocks. And in my personal opinion, the look of them, just a tad more refined. So I switched over to the crawlers last June of 2021, and I've had such a ball on them. It's been really awesome. When I first mounted them up, we were in Pennsylvania, and I couldn't actually believe how quickly they stuck onto the rock. I was fairly surprised, to be honest with you, because I had been so long on the Mickey Thompson tire. We've done a lot together with these things. I have redemption on a bunch of obstacles across the country, and it just suits my style of wheeling, which is slow, methodical, and technical. Now, this past year really has taught me the difference between a sticky compound and a soft compound. And this tire right here really is a sticky tire. And there is evidence of that. I mean, I have broken two of my rear drive shafts just with how sticky this is. I didn't let up when I fell back down and it was trying to stick up, everything bound up, and wham! A real sticky tire is going to test every single part on your rig, and that's exactly what these have done. Now, again, I just said that I've had redemption on many obstacles, and not only is it because of the tire, but I think it's kind of, you know, seat time over everything. A little driving skill, if you will. Okay, now it's for the cons and pros for both tire. Remember, this is just me only because I have run them both and I think it's good to kind of give an opinion on both. So we're going to start with the pros on the Pro X Mickey Thompson tire. It's a really comfortable ride when aired down, even on an access road or a mild trail. Really, really comfortable. They work equally as well as something like a super swamper, and that's just been what I've seen when wheeling with other people. For a sticky tire, they are very, very forgiving. You could be on an incline, slide back, and not break that axle shaft, but maybe twist some splines, which is not too bad because at least then you don't break the whole thing. Now the cons of the Pro X. Holy moly, they are super loud. It sounds like you're in a helicopter. Don't try and have a conversation when you're driving with them. And with that, they melt pretty easily because the compound is so, so soft, which may be a good thing because they do come in about 114 pounds. And the tread gaps require different air pressures for different terrain. So over here on the West Coast, we keep it a little lower. I've never kept them below 10 at all. And then over on the East Coast, we actually have to air them up a little. I really found that the changing of conditions really reflected on how the tires had to be set up. But honestly, it was perfect because I ran the power tank monster valves. So it was very easy to kind of air up and air down right there on the trail and not hold people back. You know, the Pro X really worked fantastically in the mud and the thick clay, which is more of the wheeling on the East Coast. Um, because the tread is so big and so apart from one another, the mud or the clay barely stayed in there, which was perfect. You had a clean tire all the time. Now for the red labels. I prefer having much less of a sidewall and a 42-inch tire, and it comes in way less at 97 pounds. The compound for this tire is second to none and great for traction. But remember when I was talking about the Mickey Thompsons being very forgiving? These absolutely no give or for whatsoever. I mean, if you are sliding backwards on an incline, these are going to break chromoly shafts, they're going to break bearings, and they're going to break drive shafts. So it is a pro, but you just got to be really careful, otherwise it can come back and bite you in the booty. The consistent tread pattern makes such a huge difference on the rocks. No adjusting tires, no skipping lugs. I mean, this tire pattern really has one thing in mind, and that is consistent contact with the ground for maximum traction. Okay, let's move on to the cons. They are just about the most expensive tire, the expensivest tires. Who says that again? Most expensivest. But they can also be sold for half their value after they've been used. They really hold their value, believe it or not. Can you say that about a tire? That's wild. They are almost impossible to find for most of the time. I mean, honestly, you'd have an easier time finding Bigfoot. And I'm gonna bring up one last thing. I've never had experience with this, but I know a lot of people have, and that is the sidewall of the tire. The sidewall of the tire is thin, and a lot of people in Arizona, I've heard, have had problems with them. But again, I've never had a problem with them, and I've only ever used my spare to help other people out, believe it or not. So yeah, I've not had that issue as of yet. And we go into some really crazy places. It's just like everything else. Tire placement is a must. And if you kind of make sure that you are on the right line, I know sometimes we can slip off rocks and that's how we get them. Yeah, but I had to bring it up only because it's been an issue for other people and it's a very well known issue. So I'm definitely not going to hide that at all. But for me, um, nothing yet. Touch wood. Here's hoping. Fingers crossed. Okay, so if you're trying to determine what tire is best for you and your build, unless you have a JKU and you like to wheel on similar terrain and have a similar wheeling style to myself, this probably has not been the best for you and it's not been the most helpful. But here are some questions that you really need to ask yourself before choosing a tire. Those are, is this your daily driver? Is this just a trail rig? Are you going to be using it for both? Can your rig actually sustain a sticky compound? What terrain are you mostly wheeling on? Answer all of these questions because that's how you're going to determine which tire is better for you. And what's best for you might not be the same as everyone else. Remember, don't go on who has what tire and how cool they look. It's just not going to work for you. You really have to answer those questions honestly, and then you should be able to figure out what kind of tire that you should put on your rig. Now, in conclusion, the answer to your question, which one is better, is they're both good. But for me, for my wheeling, for my rig, and for the terrain that I love to wheel on, I really have finally got the tire that Mischief Maker has deserved this entire time. I just love him. I love him. Anyways, guys, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've absolutely loved finally talking about tires. And now, whenever I see you guys in person, if you have the same question, I am going to be able to answer you openly and honestly. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching the channel. And until next time, I will see you later.